All right. Hi, everybody. I can see everybody trickling in. We're so excited to have you here today. And for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, hi, everybody. My name is Nancy Sanchez. I am your Community Engagement Coordinator here with TPA. We're excited to have you for today's webinar, especially with the Ambies right around the corner. I'm going to go through some quick slides before I turn it over and some house rules. So today's webinar is in partnership with Podglomerate, and we're so excited to work with them today. If you are not a member of TPA and would like to join, TPA 26 is your promo code for 25% off your annual membership. And if you're not following us on social media, please do. These are all our social media handles. We're always looking to grow our community, and we'd love to keep you up to date with all things TPA. That's it for my slide. A couple of house rules. Any questions, please direct them directly into the Q&A box. Feel free to use the chat to talk amongst yourself or to kind of just throw things out there for the panelists as well. I will be posting in the chat a link to today's workbook slide deck, so to speak, to make sure that you take that with you. And that's it. I'm going to turn it over to the wonderful Robyn and Joni, and Blake will be joining as well. Thank you all, and happy Ambies.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Welcome, everybody. If we haven't met before, my name is Robyn Sayles, and I'm delighted to be hosting this webinar for you all today, and also to be sharing time here with Joni from Podglomerate, and also our special guest, Blake File from the Abandoned All-American Ruins podcast, which I also happen to be a fan of. So I'm particularly tickled that he could take some time out to join us today. So let me pull up my slides and we're going to get this show on the road. All right, so today's topic is making the most of your Ambies recognition. We had a discussion a couple of months ago on the marketing committee for the podcast committee, for the Podcast Academy, about making sure that winners and nominees and finalists were feeling prepared going into this awards process, because it is a process and not everybody knows what to expect going into it. So our goal today is to help get you feeling confident and prepared as you move into the Ambies Awards or any other awards you might be seeking for your show. So on the screen, you're going to see what we're going to attempt to cover today. We've only got 60 minutes, and I'm sure you all are going to have lots of questions. So we're going to get to as much as we can. But we're going to start with announcing your recognition. I'm going to give you a framework for how to simply make that announcement. We're going to talk about audience engagement. We're also going to gain some insights from past winners, including our special guest, Blake, today. Then we're going to move into working with the media, how to network thoughtfully at the award ceremony itself, because it can be a tricky and awkward thing to navigate, especially if it's new to you. Then we're going to talk about updating your digital presence, so how to continue to make the most of this recognition beyond the award ceremony, and some other helpful tips beyond that. And then we should have time for questions at the end. In the chat, if Nancy hasn't dropped it already, you should see a link to a PDF guide we created. So anything that we can't deep dive into in the show today, you will find that information in the guide, and that will be available as a continual updated resource for Podcast Academy members. So as I mentioned, I'm Robyn. Joining me today is Joni. Joni, say hi to
Hi,
everybody.
everyone.
And then we also have our special guest, Blake File. Blake, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody, nice to see you.
So in the interest of time, we're going to jump right in, and I want to start with a little insight from y'all. So how many who are attending with us today have actually participated in an awards process before? Even if it's not for a show, if you've participated in any sort of awards process, drop that into the chat and let us know what kind of familiarity you have.
Yeah, Robyn, it's a good note because even though today's presentation is, through the lens of the Ambies and the Podcast Academy, there are numerous awards out there that podcasters can and should go after, whether they're focused on investigative series, documentary storytelling in audio form, even like best branded ad read. I mean, the categories are endless, the shows and opportunities are endless in the competitions. I'll put a link in the chat for that because with so many awards out there, even like the Golden Globes, there's a lot to pick from. So just know that today's lessons, even though they're more immediately applicable to the Ambies, you can easily apply these to any other awards that you've maybe won in the past or may want to win in the future.
Okay, so I'm seeing in the Q&A box that the chat is disabled. So Nancy, I don't know if that's something that you can fix in the background for folks.
I can odd. It says everyone to me. Let me troubleshoot because it looks open to me.
Gotcha. Well, and the Q&A box apparently is open because that's where people are putting their answers. So thank you all for being resourceful. I appreciate it. So we've got a couple of answers so far, like one answer so far. So while Nancy figures that out, if you do want to just go ahead and drop your answers in the Q&A box, which we know is open. Listen, it's not a webinar without some minor technical difficulties. If that's the worst thing that's going to happen today, I'm totally all right with that.
Great. I'm seeing a few different ones in the Q&A section right now, Robyn, between Patrick saying that they have been both a Webby and an Emmy nominee in the past, which is excellent. In fact, fun fact, the New York Emmys just announced that for the state, the Emmys are now allowing for video podcasts to be submitted as of this year. So video podcasters could actually potentially win an Emmy for the podcasting in their own right, which is great. And everyone, looks like the Q&A or the webinar chat is now open. So if you do want to put any comments, introductions of yourself or your show, you should now be able to do that in the webinar chat. But if you want to do the question and answer, you're welcome to continue putting input there too.
Yep. So we're seeing mostly online awards. A couple of you were previously nominated for Ambies. So we've got the full spectrum here. Quick side note in regards to the Emmys, I think Amy Poehler's win this year signals an interesting shift. Stay tuned. All right. So we've got an interesting mix of people who have submitted and or have been nominated for awards in the past. So that's good. It sounds like it won't be completely unfamiliar to some of you. We're going to go over the basics and get a little bit deeper in some of this material today. And like I said, the link to the guide should be in the chat, and that guide goes into much more detail than we'll cover today. All right, so you've been nominated for an Ambie. Now what? Now what do you do? What comes next? How do you prepare for the big event? How do you tell people and share your excitement? And how do you handle it and leverage it and make the most of it? So that's what we're going to try and cover today, starting with announcing your recognition. Here is one of the things, as a branding and marketing specialist in particular, this one hurts my heart, is when I see people who have cultivated a really unique voice and tone and perspective for their show. And then when it comes time to make a big announcement, they like slip into PR speak. And suddenly it's like robots wrote their announcement and it sounds like it's coming from somebody on their behalf, not them themselves. So if you take nothing else away from this today, I want to reinforce that your announcements, especially that initial announcement about your nomination, should sound like you. It should be in your perspective and your brand. It should be the you that your listeners are used to hearing all of the time on your show. Don't feel like you have to slip into phony formal language in order to make your announcement. I want you to be authentic and connect with your current listeners and maybe attract some new listeners with that announcement. In a second, I'm going to share with you a really simple framework for making sure you hit all of the points you should in your opening announcement. But I'd like to throw it over to Joni for a little bit because, Joni, you prep your clients to submit for all sorts of awards packages. So what are some best practices and maybe some things to avoid when shows are getting ready to make that, hey, we're nominated announcement?
Yeah, so for everyone's awareness, I'm Senior Vice President of Podglomerate for marketing and audience development. So we're an award-winning podcast services firm. We actually won an award last year for best marketing and production agency for podcasting, which is exciting. But yeah, Robyn's right. One of the many things we do at the Podglomerate to help market and grow a show, in addition to interview pitches, cross promo coordination, app pitches to Apple, Spotify, and the like for editorial features is we offer the opportunity for us to, knowing the budget of our client, if it's $100, $1,000 or more, we can customize a proposal for them of which awards that are podcast specific are best used for them for competitive advantage. For instance, you may want to go out for Best Show of the Year at a podcast award, but if Conan O'Brien and a few other major celebrity shows are going to be likely in that category, it's probably not the best use of your time and money to submit if it's going to be so competitive. So I've been an award judge on many competitions from the Podcast Academies, Ambies Awards, to the Webbies, to the Edward R. Murrow Awards and beyond. And between that and then our historic ability to submit and usually garner nominations and not wins for our clients, we have a pretty good sense internally of what's a good category for you, a good award for you, and then also what is going to be the best use of your time, because some competitions do require more fan activity and fan votes or jury votes. So if you're laissez-faire and you just simply want a win, some might be easier than others with the amount of time and effort involved. But at the end of the day, my recommendation is knowing, one, what is your budget? Two, what is the category that makes the most sense given the content type you have or what you want to be positioned for? And then three, coming out of that, what is your strategy to make sure that you're optimizing this for announcing this to the world? Leveraging your channels, your website, your social media, your email newsletter if you have one, or simply your friends and family to make sure they get the word out that they are so proud of you getting this, and that if you need votes, you're able to garner that in support of you potentially getting that nomination or trophy at the end.
When I'm working with clients on announcements and like elevator pitches, I tell them, I want you to I want you to say it so much you become sick of yourself. You know, like when you go through the drive-through of a Scooters and they say scoot on around, or when you go through, Chick-fil-A and it'll be my pleasure to serve you at the window. It sounds really comfortable when they say that because they've said it 1,000 times, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to go to family dinners and tell everyone, I am so pleased to tell you that we're nominated for blah, 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 blah. Like, I just want you to say it so much to everybody in person, online. Repetition will build reputation, and the more you say it, the more comfortable you'll be with it, and the more you'll start to own the sense of like, I'm an award nominated, show or personality or whatever the case may be. So.
Yeah. I used to work in public radio, and we did pledge drives, which I'm sure some folks on the call will recognize what a pledge drive for like tote bags and like are to support public media. The thing to keep in mind is that you may feel like you're repeating yourselves to death, and everyone in the world knows you've said this before. The thing is, not everyone's listening at the same time, or people may need a few reminders, right? We have short attention spans. I'm thinking of my toddler, my dog, my lunch, all kinds of things right now. But all that to say that, the more that you say it, 6, 7 times, maybe to the same person, to the same outlet, to the same social media channel, you're probably still going to have that be heard or listened or read by different people. So just because you feel like a broken record, externally speaking, the public doesn't think you're a broken record. They may just be hearing you for the very first time. So don't be judgmental of yourself or self-conscious that like you're just squawking out the same thing over and over. Robyn has a great point. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And it also just builds that ability for you to know naturally you're saying this and everyone is going to hear it eventually at some point.
If you don't feel like a broken record, you're probably not talking about it enough. All right, so let me provide you with a very simple framework. If you've never done anything like this before, you might be thinking, how the heck do I even write an announcement like this? I have no clue. So here's a basic framework for you. As with anything of this nature, I want you to start with gratitude. Obviously, we're grateful to our listeners because your listeners are probably the ones that got you nominated in the first place. So you want to express your gratitude to your team, to your listeners, to anyone else that would be relevant. You want to be specific, especially as Joni just mentioned, for some of these awards, people have to vote. You want to encourage people to vote. So you need to be very specific about what you're nominated for and how people can support you in that nomination. If they need to go vote for you, tell them how to vote for you. If you just want them to rah-rah cheer you on, then tell them specifically what to rah-rah cheer you on for. So be very specific in that announcement. And then lastly, invite them along. People love to come along on the journey. I don't know about you, but when I'm a fan of something and it wins, like I feel like I'm a part of it, you know? I think the Bad Bunny Super Bowl presentation is a great example of this. Like so many people felt brought along to that Super Bowl presentation because he invited people to come along. And so many people, like the couple that invited him to the wedding, he's like, hell, I'll invite you to the Super Bowl. Come get married here, right? So when you invite people along, it creates this sense of deeper, broader community, more so than you could ever do on your own. So
Mhm.
start with gratitude, move into the specificity of exactly what you're nominated for and how people can support you, and then invite them to come along on the journey and give them a taste of what that journey might look like. If you have a sense of what kind of content you're going to create along your road to the ceremony, let them know what might be coming up so they know what to look out for. Joni, what would you add to that?
It's important to know how the voting takes place. In the case of the Podcast Academy, the votes in this round, or in the finalist round, if you call it that right now, those are only people that are members of the TPA, right? If we're talking about the Webby Awards or another competition like the Signals or others, those are probably fan votes. So you don't have to be a member, subscribing member to the organization in order to vote. You probably just need to go to a website and click vote, or create a website, like a free account access point to vote. So when we're talking about specificity, it's not just what category and show, like the name of your show in that category to vote for. It's also what is the link? Are there any maybe technical glitches or things that the person should be aware of? Like once you go to the website, you're going to want to make sure you're voting for our show because there's another one in the same category that's same, like titled the same way. Or if you're a TPA member, you can vote. If you're not a TPA member, here's a link to be able to become a member in order to vote. And it's affordable and it's a great way to support the TPA's mission. Just make sure that if someone who has no concept of what you're asking for can do this on their own, your directions are clear enough for them to do that self-sufficiently.
And then, Blake, I'd love to hear from you a little bit. How did you structure your announcements when you got last year's Ambie nomination?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky that I had been nominated in a previous year for what I would say is a more recognized category just in terms of the editorial landscape. And so I was really clear in my nomination announcement, not just that I was excited and grateful for the nomination, but also really cheerleading people in my category because I think it only um, benefits you to really understand who is in your category, not just because you're in competition with them, but also as a creator. It's really, really good to see what other kinds of shows are out there and taking inspiration from them. I think that the most important part of that is gathering a community of cheerleaders from the inside of the network. It's just a really, really strong way to go. And you don't want to think about it as like networking or strategy. I see Black as America in the chat. I'm such a huge fan of Dominic's work, and have been rooting for him since I started learning about the show. So that's the only other piece that I think I would add.
Thank you so much for that. So you have an example in the PDF guide. In the interest of time, I want to make sure I share with you guys that in addition to crafting your announcement, you do have some support from the TPA in order to make a big splash when you announce your nomination. So the TPA will provide you with nominee badges, winners badges if you win your category. They provide shareable graphics, and then you also get 2 tickets to the big show, to the ceremony. So all of those resources will help support you in your adventure to announce to the world that you've been nominated for this amazing thing. Melvin, I see your question come through. So if you look in the PDF guide, I do have a basic example, but by invitation, it could be something as simple as, make sure you follow us so that you can see everything that we're doing on this adventure, or stay tuned because we're going to have a special thank you episode, or as Joni mentioned before, inviting them to vote on your behalf or support you if they can't vote on your behalf. I hope that answers your question.
Yep.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about engaging your audience. I want to come back around to this though, because I know Blake has to go at 12:30, and so I want to give him a chance to share some particular insights with y'all. So let me skip ahead here, and then we'll make sure we come back around. So without further ado, Blake talked a little bit about crafting his announcement, but I have a couple of specific questions for you, Blake, but I'd love if there's just any particular overall insights you'd love to share with folks, especially if, maybe this is the first time they're being nominated or their first time being nominated for the Ambies in particular. Tell us a little bit about your experience and things you wish you would have known that you'd love to share with them.
Totally. Yeah. I'm a very nervous person. I'm kind of an introvert. I think that's why podcasting is such a great medium for me to practice my work as a storyteller. But I will say that that kind of overwhelming feeling, I wish I'd prepare a little bit better to just like take a chill pill and go have fun. That is the biggest advice I would give to anybody. It is a party. And it's a really, really fun party at that. We had Tig Notaro hosting last year, just as an example, and she knocked it out of the park. And you're really there, again, not just to be there for yourself and your show, but to cheer on other people in this industry. This is one of the most giving industries that I've ever been a part of. People are genuinely kind about their just the things that they say about your work and really actually paying attention to it. And it's such a great feeling. So I think the biggest advice I would give everyone is like, take your chill pill before you show up and know that you're going just to have a really, really good time. I can give you an example as to how that impacted my experience last year when I won. I fully did not expect to win at all and did not prepare anything because I was just kind of settling in for a nice winter's nap. And when my name was called, I almost thought I had tricked myself into hearing the name wrong. So I didn't even stand up at first. It was really awkward. And then when I got on stage, it was a full blackout. And you can go find my speech on the Podcast Academy YouTube page. It is wholly nonsensical. And if you want also a really good example of a speech, my buddy Aaron David Harris, who produces the fiction show Tales of Fists and Fireballs, he was like, I watched his speech and I was like, now that is a speech. That's how you really, really show people who you are and make sure that people remember you. Because the thing is, if you knock your speech out of the park, people will remember you. And so I think that's sort of the biggest thing I can say is just like be prepared, because you never know if your name is going to get called. Yeah.
So you answered one of my questions already, which was how much did you prepare for the event? Not enough.
Dude, it was wild. So I was there representing two different shows, and my boss, who from my 9 to 5, we produced this show together at the organization I work for, TMI Project. And when I got back, she was like, did you prepare at all? And I was like, nah, I didn't.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, ruh-roh. Because, I think that speaks to just like something that was mentioned earlier about harnessing the pride that you can take in getting the nomination. Like, I find because this industry is so lovely, people are often very hesitant to kind of take pride in their work and stand in your spotlight, baby. Like, this is your time to shine. And honestly, I think getting nominated for this award is almost more gratifying just because you've got like the top industry people who are on that blue ribbon panel who are making these decisions. And then you've got a giant voting body. So for the actual win. And so, yeah, totally be prepared, but also like go up with a sense of curiosity, and take notes as you're watching people win, because I'm telling you, I got so much inspiration from the folks in my category last year, and it completely shifted certain ways that I approach producing my show. And that to me is like the biggest win. And also just having new cool people that I get to like admire, is one of the biggest benefits from being an Ambie nominee and winner.
I love that. When I used to teach salespeople, I would tell them, assume you're going to get it. And I
Mhm.
think the same thing applies when you're nominated for award. Assume you're going to get it. You
Yeah.
know, all of your preparation, everything that you write, everywhere that you get your head in the right space, it should all be operating under the assumption that you're going to get it, you know?
Yeah. And even
And
though we don't have a slide to this, just because you don't get it, what you have written for yourself, your speech, if you will, that congratulates like your team, your fans, everything, you can still use that. You don't have to just like shove it into a drawer and call it a day. You can post that on your social media saying, hey, I'm so proud to be nominated. This was the speech I wrote for this occasion. And while I couldn't say it
what
on
I would have
stage, I still
said.
want to give a shout out to everyone. That's the kind of thing that creates virality. People are so proud. They're saying, get them next time. It's okay. You can use that in so many ways. So don't feel like it's a lost cause by you taking the time to think through why you're so grateful. There's a way to repurpose this content, just like you repurpose your podcast content out there for other occasions.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Blake, can you share a couple of ways that you were able to leverage your win?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky that the win happened in the midst of a release of a third season. And my show is not a very typical, it's not something that you can listen to passively. It's something that you have to actively sit in a chair and put on headphones and be present with for like 20 to 25 minutes per episode. So I'm not someone who is going to be like on a podcast. I mean, I am part of a podcast network, but like I'm not pulling in ad revenue the way that a lot of shows can. So I rely more as an artistic podcaster on grants. And the grant landscape for podcasting, I think, is something that's still widely misunderstood. And there are a lot of different avenues you can take with different grants that may not be specific to audio storytelling, but ultimately can get you some more capital to work with. And I had a grant this past year with an organization in Colorado called Green Box Arts, with which everyone should write that down. And they gave me a $10,000 grant. And one of the pieces of my that I highlighted in my application for that grant was that I had just won this Ambie award, and they wound up mentioning that in my final presentation of this thing that I did back in December. And so, like, really, really use it wherever you can. I put the badge on every single piece of press that I can. And again, do it with pride. I think the other thing that I did too is I leveraged that particular win as a way to capture more editorial content. And so when I was sending pitches out to different organizations, institutions, and editorial outlets, I was very clear that this is the Ambie award-winning show Abandon the All-American Ruins podcast. And I can guarantee you that I got more press coverage on the show, therefore boosting my listenership, therefore getting just building an audience in general. That was really, really helpful. So use it. Say, I am an Ambie nominee, Ambie nominated Black is America, Ambie nominated Tales of Fists and Fireballs, Ambie nominated Stitch Please. It's really, really important, and people pay attention to it. And I think the Ambies, I think this is the 6th year. It's actually starting to gain traction. And hopefully, I think this was mentioned, Amy Poehler's big win at the Golden Globes. People are really starting to pay attention in the general public to the craft of podcasting.
Yep. I love that. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about some ways that you can, and obviously in the guide, there's also some suggestions on ways that you can leverage your win, but thank you for sharing your specific experience. Any final thoughts for the audience today that you'd like to leave them with?
Yeah, totally. If you are a nervous Nelly like me and you have access to some sort of small budget, reach out to a place like Podglomerate. I am lucky that I have a friend of mine who's worked in PR for his entire life. And so he's going to be at the Ambies with me this year, kind of like making sure that I keep my shoulders on straight and that my palms don't sweat as much. Because having a person who can help you translate your work as an artist and as a communicator into leveraging the attention that your show gets is really, really helpful. So that's, I think, the biggest thing, is really making sure that you, if you can, have somebody there. But if not, build yourself a pitch plan. There are a bajillion templates out on the internet, in addition to the materials that are being offered here today, that can help you present yourself and pitch yourself, and think outside of the box, because you may think that you only are right for this one sort of like, like for example, my show is a quote unquote history show, but it's also a show that dives deeply into mental health and mental wellness. And so I have leveraged the themes of my show post win to help me get more press and to land little speaking opportunities and engagements. But yeah, getting a press person is like so freaking helpful. I think that would be the most final thing.
Next level.
Thanks for the plug, Bray. I promise you I did not pay for that plug, so thank you, Blake.
No, and in fact, I will say that the reason I learned about Podglomerate, they did such a great job with the show called Generation Barney. That is when I first learned about Podglomerate. So definitely reach out to them, and they did not pay me because I've never actually reached out to them, but I imagine I will in the future.
Generation Barney was a really great documentary podcast from a public media station in Connecticut. So love the shout out there.
Yeah, awesome.
Y'all, and this is the power of community exemplified for you in this conversation right here. I love it. Blake, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out to come hang out with us today and share your wisdom. I truly appreciate it, and I'm sure they do as well. If you guys have any specific questions for Blake, we'll be happy to forward them along. So make sure you drop them in the Q&A box, and we'll funnel the answers back to you some way, somehow. I'm sure Nancy has some magic for that. But yeah, Blake, feel free to drop off whenever you need to drop off. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Thanks, folks. And I did put my email in the chat. Please reach out just to say hi, like Ambies aside. Tell me what you're doing, because my ears are always right for new material. And I'm just so glad everyone in here is having a good time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, y'all.
So since we're in this section, let's finish it up real quick, and then we'll back up to engaging your audience. So real quickly, I want to share a couple of other things that came up in the survey that we sent out, asking previous nominees and winners about their experience. So one of the big things that came up, there were several responses related to documenting the journey. So as Blake mentioned, you can kind of get lost in it in the moment. So making sure that you stay present enough to document the journey, or you've got somebody there with you who can document it, capture your reactions, save your congratulatory messages, take plenty of photos. And then I love Aaron David Harris shared this with us. Remember to get your winner's envelope and card, because it's the only tangible thing that you'll immediately receive. Apparently the trophy comes later. So little tidbits like that are really helpful. The next thing is treat it as a beginning and not an ending. I won the award, or I didn't win the award, and it's over. No, it has only just begun. And I think Joni and Blake have shared multiple ways that you can continue to leverage even a nomination to get more eyeballs and listeners on behalf of your show. Aaron also shared with us that the win gave me the confidence to go compete in other audio competitions. You guys, you're going to see that a lot, and you're going to see other things like this in the guide. The connections that you will make, the conversations that naturally bubble up when you participate in something like this, will take you to places that you don't even know that you can go to yet. So stay open and stay present as much as you can. And then lastly, as Blake just mentioned, indie podcasters need a PR plan. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the shuffle, and you're not going to be able to make the most out of this amazing opportunity. So set aside a budget if you can, get involved with PR if you can, or, just find a template, talk to your friends, do what you can in order to go in there feeling prepared and represented, because it can be an overwhelming experience. Joni, would you add anything else to those tips and wisdoms?
Just dress to impress as well. For the Ambies specifically, it is one of the few podcast awards where there really is like a red carpet, and there are professional photographers. In fact, some that are like Getty photographers, Getty, which means that your photos are going to be online, available in great quality. That's the kind of thing that you can also leverage for your press appearances, like putting that on your website as like a headshot or like something in your bio information. So just, be prepared to maybe wear a suit or wear something that is representative of you, your show, and elevates you to a higher level. Jeans are fine, don't get me wrong. Jeans are also pretty great, but maybe like do something a little bit on top of that too. And that'll really make you stand out on the red carpet.
I love it. And I would add on to that, be Brandon show specific
Hmm.
if that's appropriate for you.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
as
Exactly.
someone who's in the branding space, I have a very well-defined brand. I have a signature pink velvet suit that I wear to events like that. So if you're at the Ambies or if you're at On Air Fest, you will see me in my pink velvet suit inevitably,
Hmm.
right? So even having a signature thing for events like that can really make you stand out in those types of things. Lisa says she's making her outfit in all capital letters. I'm
Hmm.
excited to see that. All right, so we're going to back up the truck and talk a little bit about audience engagement. Joni and I could sit here and talk words and advice at you that
Hmm.
may or may not be relevant. What I'd rather do is hear from you guys. Where are your platforms that work for you, right? So, in terms of online, and that's not just social media, that could be email newsletters, that could be platforms like Substack or Medium or Patreon. So, tell us in the chat, what are the online places that you plan to leverage when building up momentum to get people excited about your nomination and to get attention about your nomination? So in the chat, let us know what online platforms you plan to use and abuse and exploit to get your show and your nomination seen out there. So far, I'm seeing LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn surprises me every once in a while. It's either a hit or a miss, I feel, for like you either hit and you've got a strong audience on LinkedIn or it's crickets.
Yeah, Patreon, that's a great one. And that's the thing to consider, folks. We're not saying necessarily social media, we're saying platform, right?
Hmm.
So your platform could be any number of things. It could be YouTube, it could be a membership or a donor platform like Patreon, it could be social media platform, more standard like posting, responding like LinkedIn or Twitter X. Newsletter is a great one. If you're a broadcast television station or radio station, maybe it is like platform being radio or you have an app. So just know you have so many things available to you that connects you, your show, to an external source, an audience, a follower, a fan.
And I personally am a big fan of audiences that you own,
Hmm.
that are not beholden to the algorithm gods. So I'm seeing Patreon, I'm seeing newsletter. I love that. Anyone who doesn't already have an email list for their show, please start building one. So we've got LinkedIn, we've got Patreon, we've got IG, LinkedIn again, Instagram, newsletter, YouTube. So we've got a wide variety. I would say this is an opportunity to build momentum with your content, and behind the scenes, day of preparations, like you'll see tons of ideas in the guide. But since we see LinkedIn on here a couple of times, Joni, do you have any specific recommendations for getting attention on LinkedIn or utilizing LinkedIn for these types
Yeah,
of things?
LinkedIn's it. To be honest, a lot of social media platforms algorithms have changed so that it really is even more short form video focused and clips focused. So
Hmm.
YouTube clips and YouTube Shorts, IG Reels or test Reels, and LinkedIn also has like short form vertical videos. I would say that you being on camera, using like your face or your team on camera, and just talking directly into the lens and saying, "Hey, I'm so excited about this opportunity. We are nominated. I'd love your support. Here's X, Y, and Z ways that you can do so." That in like a 7 or 10 second way is going to encourage more engagement and more activity. Not to say virality. I'm not going to say you're going to hit like a million views, but like little things like that that show a human-driven piece of short form video content is going to draw or move the needle in a more positive direction than if you just do a simple text post or like a text with maybe like a screen cap. So just keep that in mind to help leverage the platforms.
Absolutely. And on platforms where it makes sense, like IG, we all come across like engagement farming posts where it's like, How are you feeling today? Drop a GIF in the comments, right? So, despite how we may personally feel about them, those tactics work, right? So use it on your behalf, which shirt should I wear to the ceremony? Like, do some engagement farming and, drive your numbers up a little bit and get some eyeballs on your content. I'd say if you're doing, for those of you who are using things like Patreon or Substack or newsletters, this is a chance to get real personal and direct. I mean, you know that this is your audience. You have a direct connection to a tone. If you're posting on YouTube or LinkedIn or some sort of general ones, it might be more of a, hey guys, approach. But if you're on Patreon or newsletter or that direct connection, use first person language, thank
Hmm.
you, and really hone in on that connection with your audience in those spaces where you can and connect with them emotionally about your excitement over this win.
Yeah. And folks, one thing I didn't see in the chat, and you all have access to this because that's why you're here today, it's your podcast feed. You can use your audio RSS feed to put a note out. If you're on a platform that allows for DAI, dynamic ad insertion capabilities, where your 30, 60-second spot can run across your entire archive of episodes, if you've been running for years or hundreds or however many show, content pieces you have, leverage that. You should put a note in your feed, whether across your entire feed or it's standalone piece that's like a new episode, telling your podcast listeners directly, hey, I'm so excited. I'm nominated for this. That means our entire community are nominated for this. I would love your support. Here's how to do that. Click the link in the show notes or on our website to also get there directly. Use that. So when we're talking about platforms or anything you touch, we mean it. Anything you or your show is on, use that to support your Ambie Award nomination.
I don't want people to forget the power of offline, word of mouth, person to person, in person, even if it's not necessarily in person, things that are not social media or algorithm driven, right? So I'd love to know if any of you are planning to really make the most of offline interactions or offline marketing. Are you leaving flyers at, local businesses? Are you reaching out to newspapers? Exactly. Press releases to newspapers. That's excellent. What else? I want you to really think about offline the ways that you can connect directly with your listeners or potential listeners and share this, or also and connect, with press and media beyond that.
Mhm.
Business cards with QR code on the back. I love that.
Yep. If you're a brick and mortar, let's say that your podcast is a branded podcast related to your business or company, then you may have receipts. You may have like a brick and mortar store that you can put signage into, or something else that it allows for in-person like engagement around this. So take advantage of that too.
Yeah. And I think there's one piece of advice that applies both online and offline, and that is, where are people already talking about this? So whatever your show is about, somebody is having those conversations somewhere. Where are they having those conversations online, and how
Mhm.
can you participate in it? And nowadays, I think it's more there's so much coming at us online. It's becoming even more and more critical to find where your people are at offline. Where are they having these conversations? Blake mentioned there's a mental health aspect to his, right? So where else are people having mental health conversations out in the real
Mhm.
world? And how
Yep.
can he get his show in front of them?
Yep.
If I know there's a couple of you who are in here today that do physical crafts, sewing and stitching and things like that, right? So, can you put advertisements for your podcast at your local yarn shop? Like, where are people already having these conversations, and how can you participate in them? And then again, I've already mentioned this, but I want to reinforce this. There's much more specific ideas in the guides, but I want you to see this as an opportunity to build momentum that will last beyond the ceremony itself, regardless of whether or not you win. Use this opportunity to build momentum for yourself, for your show, for your business, for anything that you want on behalf of yourself and your show. And so, think of it as content that builds off of one another, starting from that initial announcement, going into a ceremony countdown, day of updates, a results announcement, maybe some post ceremony reflection, how we're going to try again the next time, who we met and how we're going to connect with them. Like you can really build some spectacular momentum with this content and with this audience engagement. And then share the outcome, win or lose, with grace and gratitude. As Joni mentioned earlier, even if you don't win the award, man, your people are so rooting for you. And they'll be the first ones to say, when are you submitting for next year? How can we support you? So don't just drop off the face of the earth if you don't win. You've invited them on the journey. You have to take them with you on the whole entire journey. All right. Let me catch us back up to the rest of our content over here. So we're going to segue into working with the media. And I just want to quickly give you some tips. And I really want Joni to pipe in here because she has more practical experience on this when it comes to sending out press releases, gaining media attention for your show. First and foremost, you're going to need a press kit. If you don't already have one, call it a press kit, call it a media kit. But it starts with something as simple as a one sheet, a single page document that talks about your show, who the hosts are, who the target audience is, essential key details, some high resolution photos. If you can't invest in a whole lot on behalf of your show, please invest in some great photos of your show, of yourself. And then some audio samples, curated clips, the best of. Put as much attention into the clips in this press kit as you did in deciding which episode to submit for the award itself. Like really put some thought and attention to what best represents my show.
Yeah, and folks, just a reminder that when we're talking about press kit, this isn't like a high-end thing that you need to do. It's a Google Drive or even a Dropbox link that has all these files in it. That's it. So whatever you have available to you, or you can piecemeal it, email it out, that's fine. But so long as you have the basic who, what, when, where, why, what is your show, who's attached to it, why does it matter, and what are the elements that people can listen to or look at to get a sense of it, that's what you need to answer in this press kit.
And to piggyback on Joni's point, use what you have. If you have a Google account, put it in Google Drive. If you've got Dropbox, put it in Dropbox. I have worked with clients who've done it in Google and Dropbox. Trello boards. A Trello board makes a great press kit. You can do it in Notion, absolutely. So what are you already using? Because you can probably build your press kit there. You should also have some prepared quotes from yourself, from the show, some links. Make it so simple for them to access the things you want them to access. Here's directly how to listen to our show. Here's directly how to find our social media profiles. And then contact information. And probably a phone number if you can, but at least an email address that is monitored. Because nothing's worse than finding a press inquiry like 3 weeks later. That's a heartbreaking moment when you realize you've missed your window of opportunity. All right. And then again, I just want to quickly mention some strategic outreach to think about because it's not always the traditional outlets of media that you should be looking at. Local media is a gold mine. Local media loves a hometown hero. And then if you can piggyback that off of whatever's relevant trending topic going on right now. So for example, if you have it's Black History Month. So if you're a Black content creator now and you're nominated for award, now's a great time to hit up your local news station and let them know, right? When it's Women's History Month, if you're, a women-owned company, a women-focused show talking about women's issues, go hit up your local media and say, hey, we got nominated for this award, right? So sometimes just being nominated for an award isn't enough to get the local media attention. If you can combine it with a relevant topic that they're already looking for content for, they will be so grateful. They will eat it up. Local newspapers. Don't forget your local weekly tabloid papers that talk about things to do. they would love to recommend your show as something to do. Your local television stations. A lot of you probably don't even realize how many like YouTube television stations or cable access stations are produced in your area. I live in Tampa Bay. We have so many of them, right? So go hit up all that local media. Industry publications like Pod News Daily. Listen, it is a very selfish goal of mine to have James Cridlin one day say my name in part of an announcement on a Pod News Daily podcast, right? Because I've listened to that show for years, right? So, what are some other industry publications that you can submit your stuff to?
And I actually just put a link in the chat. We compiled a list of like 30 some industry publications, ranging from ones that focus on news of the day podcasts, like podcast news of the day, to reviews and highlights. So check out the list. There's a few of the resources I put in here too about publicity, like ideas and resources. The one thing I'll note, and Dusty had a great question in the Q&A about this, is that if you find that you're hitting a brick wall with you trying to pitch yourself for interviews or coverage, especially given your Ambie award or nomination, it's okay. The things I would just say are, let's figure out the variable. What's not working here, right? So if you're sending it to local media, what is the local media they're sending it to? And are they the right people at the local media outlet? Like, is it the writer or reporter who has previously covered podcast or covers a beat relevant to the type of show that you do? Is the outlet list including all the different types that Robyn just mentioned? So beyond cable news and print newspaper, are they also including digital magazines and email newsletters and social media accounts? How is your pitch? Is your pitch, your email you're sending to them, is it eye-catching? Is it really embodying why this person receiving it should care? And do you have talking points in it that are actually good talking points, representative of your expertise, your background, what interesting, eye-catching, ear-catching things you can say or give to them for the interview piece? So really look at what you are doing in your pitch package. And if you feel like there's one variable there that's not up to snuff compared to the others, edit it, update it, and keep in mind that some outlets and writers and reporters or podcasters even, they may need multiple reminders of what you can do or updates around it before they say yes. Muckrack, which is a great platform for publicity folks, has a study, and usually it's that you need to send a pitch and follow-ups after the pitch upwards of like 6 times total before an entity actually responds with a yes or even a no. So similar to you just repeating out there, I'm an award-winning podcast, I'm an award-nominated podcast, help me vote, help me get this. The more you do it, the easier it gets. The more you pitch yourself and re-up the pitch and follow up with that pitch with a follow-up pitch, you may get the response that you're needing. If you only pitch once to one person, you're not doing the job right.
All right. So I want to make sure we cover a little bit of network. I'm calling it networking, but it's really connecting, really having a prepared plan for going to an awards ceremony. And so some of this has already come up in our conversation with Blake, but I want to reinforce a couple of things. You need to prepare. You need to think about, what is it going to be like? Who might I run into? What should I wear? What should I talk about? How am I going to introduce myself to people at the event, right? So approach the event with intention, prepare your speech and your elevator pitch, have contact info easily shareable if people ask for it. One thing I see is, this is not the place to keep pitching yourself. You're at the event. We don't pitch at the event. We celebrate at the event. We enjoy at the event. We connect at the event, right? So have an elevator pitch, have your speech prepared, have contact information available, and then just relax and enjoy the night and make some connections. You heard Blake say that, you never know who you're going to meet. And you never know what that's going to lead to. So just be prepared and be open to the experience and try to stay present. Relax and have fun. You are supposed to have fun at these. So if you're a nervous Nelly, like Blake was, like do the things you need to do to get in the right headspace, to psych yourself up and be ready to connect and be open to that. Especially if you win, people are going to want to talk to you. So if you don't like talking to people, you're going to have to get over that.
And make sure you eat and drink something. There's something in your stomach before, because these ceremonies, famously, whether the Ambies or others, like they're not short. Like, I'm not saying they're hours and hours long, like the Golden Globes or the Oscars, but just make sure you have something that's going to fill you up and fuel you up for whatever may take place during the night.
And I would also say if you were an independent podcaster or you're someone who's sort of solo and siloed and an award ceremony like the Ambies is going to be the first time that you're in a room with people that you're a fan of, whether it's just your favorite podcaster or someone who's considered a celebrity, they're all just people. They're just people. They're just human beings who are in the room, who are also distracted and excited and nervous and
Mhm.
feeling awkward. And just treat everybody in that room like a human being, and try to just relax and have a good time.
Yep.
And then lastly, if you do make connections at the ceremony, if you say you're going to follow up, do follow up and follow up in a timely manner. Remember that we're creating community here, and we've already seen several wonderful examples of what happens when you treat this as a community and not competition, and follow up timely when you say you're going to follow up. We've also got some information for you about updating your digital presence and thinking beyond the ceremony. That is in the book. I do want to pause here because we're almost time to see if there's any burning questions that you guys would rather ask, because you will be able to view these slides and you will have access to the guide long beyond today.
Mhm.
So I'll take a second here and see if we have any questions. Joni, if there's anything you've seen in the chat that we should address, let me know.
Now, right now, I think we've addressed everything in the Q&A and chat. I think we're up to date with all the questions.
Yay. Nancy, can we drop the link to the PDF guide in the chat one more time, just in case anybody didn't catch it at the beginning, so they
Yes,
can
we
make sure they
can.
grab it? Thank you so much. So real quickly before we wrap up, just some things to consider beyond the ceremony. This recognition should have a permanent home on your digital and physical presence. So, where are you going to put this badge or banner on your homepage, your about page, your press kit, or your press page? Where is this going to live beyond the ceremony itself? It should have a permanent placement so that people can see that you were recognized for this accomplishment. And particularly as Blake mentioned with the Ambie Awards, this is peer voting. So you're not just being nominated for your show, you're being nominated by your peers for your show. You're being acknowledged by your peers for your show if you make it to the finalists. And if you win, you know, big studio muckety mucks and a gaggle of independent podcasters have all agreed that you're the top at what you're doing at this moment in time. And so I just want to reinforce Blake's earlier message of please wear that with pride. And so please put it everywhere, like literally everywhere. I would make a button and wear it around physically. Like, put it everywhere. Update all of your professional materials. So your show description should now include Ambie nominated show. Your social media bios should include host of Ambie nominated show. Your email signature should include Ambie nominated show. Again, I want you to feel like a broken record. I want you to put it everywhere. Put it in your pitch deck, put it in your press kit, put it everywhere where you possibly can. Any place that I've forgotten, Joni?
Again, podcast artwork. Like you
Yes.
can update your podcast artwork to include the laurels, the award trophy. We've represented some clients that honorably we were able to get them many awards and or nominations, and their podcast artwork now has like a full byline of those at the very bottom, just showing how impressive the show and the series is. So do that. Take advantage of that. Usually there's a transparent logo that the organization will give you. Plug it on your podcast artwork and make sure you update your podcast metadata, your episode or show description to say that you are the award-winning, award-nominated show. You want to make sure that that is anywhere that a potential listener or press outlet can see and acknowledge you for that.
And then a final thought beyond the ceremony, beyond this particular awards or any awards, keep doing the work that got you nominated. Keep doing it. And then if you can and are able to and willing to, please contribute back to your committee, to your community. We would love to see you on a future committee here at the Podcast Academy. We would love to see you mentoring. Oh my God, I cannot tell you how much I love the mentorship program at TPA. Well, I would love to see award nominees and award winners become future mentors to our independent podcasters at large.
Yep.
So keep doing this amazing work and then contribute what you can back to your community and bring everybody along with you.
Yep.
Any final thoughts, Joni?
Ditto. It's all about giving back. Just like we're in a position to do so with insights and knowledge, hopefully at a point you're able to do the same within your audio community, your collaborations that you've created along the way. But keep the spirits up. If you don't win, it's not the end of the world. It is just a zig in your zag or your ladder of life. So it's gonna be great. But we're glad that we're able to give some insights to y'all today, and hopefully it's helpful. And we'll see you in New York next week for it too at the award ceremony.
Thank you all so much. And if any other questions come in, we'll find a way to get answers to you.
Thanks for the time, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.